Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to talk to you about my man Dave Chappelle. Now, if you don't know who Dave Chappelle is, first of all, what rock have you been living under? But seriously, Dave Chappelle is one of the greatest comedians of all time. He's been in the game for decades and he's still killing it. But what I want to talk about today is how Dave Chappelle manages to sell out comedy theaters and still speak nonchalantly about whatever he wants. I mean, if I sold out a comedy theater, I would be screaming it from the rooftops. But Dave, he just seems to do it like it's no big deal. Before we dive into all of that, let's talk about Dave Chappelle's early life. Dave was born in Washington, D.C. in 1973 and grew up in the Silver Spring area of Maryland. His father was a statistician and his mother was a professor. So Dave was exposed to a lot of intellectual and creative influences from a young age. Dave started performing stand-up comedy at the age of 14, and it quickly became his passion. He would often sneak out of the house at night to perform at local comedy clubs, and his talent was quickly recognized. After high school, Dave moved to New York City to pursue his comedy career, and he quickly made a name for himself on the stand-up circuit. In the early 1990s, Dave Chappelle got his big break with a role on the TV show Buddies, and he soon became a household name. From there, he went on to star in his own comedy sketch show, Chappelle's Show, which became a massive hit and cemented Dave's place as one of the greatest comedians of all time. But Dave's early life wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. He faced a lot of challenges and setbacks along the way, and he had to work hard to get where he is today. He's been through his fair share of ups and downs, but he never let them hold him back. He always stayed true to his passion for comedy and kept pushing forward, no matter what obstacles came his way. One of the biggest obstacles Dave faced early on in his career was the lack of opportunities for young, up-and-coming comedians. It was tough for him to break into the industry and get his foot in the door, but he never gave up. He kept performing at local comedy clubs and working on his craft, and eventually his talent and hard work paid off. Another challenge Dave faced was the pressure to conform to certain expectations in the comedy world. Many comedians feel pressure to fit a certain mold or stick to certain types of jokes, but Dave never let those pressures get to him. He always stayed true to his own unique style and voice, and that's part of what makes him so successful today. Despite all of this, Dave Chappelle never let them discourage him. He always remained focused and determined, and he never let setbacks hold him back. And that's one of the reasons he's been able to achieve such great success in his career. So, how does he do it? Well, first of all, let's talk about Dave's talent. The man is a genius when it comes to comedy. He's got this ability to take everyday situations and turn them into hilarious anecdotes that have you rolling on the floor laughing. His storytelling skills are second to none, and he's got a delivery that's just perfect. But talent alone isn't enough to sell out comedy theaters. You've got to have a loyal fan base, and Dave Chappelle definitely has that. People love him, and they will follow him wherever he goes. He's built up a loyal following over the years, and they are always ready to see him live. Dave Chappelle doesn't let fame and success go to his head. He's always stayed true to himself, and he's never let fame change who he is. He's always been down to earth and approachable, and I think that's part of what makes him so likable. Plus, Dave Chappelle has always been about the comedy. He's not in it for the fame or the money. He's in it because he loves making people laugh, and that comes through in his performances. He's not putting on a show for the sake of it. He's genuinely trying to make people laugh and have a good time. He's been performing stand-up comedy for over 25 years, and he's been in the public eye for even longer than that. He's seen it all and done it all, so selling out a comedy theater probably doesn't faze him as much as it would a newer comedian. Dave Chappelle also has a unique approach to comedy. He's not afraid to tackle controversial or sensitive topics in his act, and he does so with wit and intelligence. He's able to make people laugh while also making them think, and that's a rare talent. His material is fresh and relevant, and that's part of the reason why people continue to flock to see him live. But it's not just Dave Chappelle's talent and approach to comedy that contribute to his ability to sell out comedy theaters. It's also his work ethic. Dave Chappelle is known for his relentless touring schedule, and he's always working on new material. He's constantly evolving as a comedian, and that's something his fans really appreciate. But like any public figure, Dave has had his fair share of controversies over the years. Some of these controversies have been small and relatively insignificant, while others have caused quite a stir in the media and among his fans. One of Dave's earliest controversies was when he was accused of making fun of people with disabilities in one of his stand-up routines. Dave addressed the controversy in a later performance, explaining that the joke was not meant to be taken literally and that he has nothing but respect for people with disabilities. Another controversy that Dave faced was when he was accused of making homophobic comments in one of his stand-up routines. Dave addressed this controversy as well, explaining that he was not trying to be homophobic and that he has many friends who are a part of the LGBTQ community. Dave has also faced criticism for his views on certain social and political issues. In one of his stand-up routines, he made controversial comments about the Black Lives Matter movement, which sparked a backlash among some of his fans. Dave later apologized for his comments and explained that he was trying to make a point about the importance of unity and understanding. Despite these controversies, Dave Chappelle has managed to maintain a loyal following and continue to be one of the most successful comedians in the industry. Part of this is due to his talent and unique approach to comedy, but it's also because he's always been willing to take risks and speak his mind. Dave Chappelle has never been one to shy away from controversial or sensitive topics in his stand-up routines. And that's part of what makes him so great. He's always been willing to challenge the status quo and push the boundaries of what's acceptable in comedy. But Dave Chappelle's controversies have also made him a polarizing figure in the industry. Some people love him for his edgy and provocative material, while others find his views and jokes offensive. Regardless of how you feel about Dave's controversies, there is no denying that he's a talented comedian who has made a significant impact on the industry. However, in the early 2000s, Dave Chappelle shocked the world by quitting his hit comedy sketch show, Chappelle's Show. The show was a massive success, and Dave was at the top of his game. So why did he decide to walk away from it all? Well, there are a few different factors that contributed to Dave's decision to quit the show. One of the main reasons was that he was feeling overwhelmed and burnt out. Dave had been working nonstop for years, and the pressure of maintaining such a high-profile show was starting to take its toll on him. He needed a break to recharge and focus. Another reason Dave quit the show was because he felt like he was losing control of the creative direction. Dave had always been very hands-on with the show, and he had a very specific vision for it. But as the show gained popularity, he started to feel like he was losing control. He didn't want to compromise his artistic integrity, and he felt like the show was starting to drift away from his original vision. Dave also had some issues with the network that aired the show, Comedy Central. He felt like they were pressuring him to produce more episodes, and he didn't want to sacrifice the quality of the show for the sake of meeting deadlines. He wanted to take his time and make sure each episode was up to his standards, and he felt like the network wasn't respecting them. So with all of these factors in mind, Dave made the tough decision to walk away from Chappelle's Show. It was a risky move, but it was one that he felt was necessary for his own well-being and creative integrity. Now, some people might have thought that Dave was making a mistake by quitting such a successful show, but in reality, it was a bold and brave move. Dave was putting his own needs and values first, and that's something that not everyone is willing to do. But despite the success, Dave ended up having some issues with Comedy Central over his payment. You see, Dave had a contract with Comedy Central that entitled him to a percentage of the profits from Chappelle's Show, his hit sketch comedy series that aired on the network in the early 2000s. Dave argued that he was owed a significant amount of money for the profits generated by Chappelle's Show on streaming platforms, and he took legal action to get what he believed he was owed. Comedy Central, on the other hand, argued that they had already paid Dave what he was owed under the terms of his contract. The matter ended up in court, and ultimately, a judge ruled in Dave's favor, ordering Comedy Central to pay him a significant sum of money. So, what's the moral of the story here? Well, it's a reminder that it's always important to protect your interest and make sure you're being fairly compensated for your work. Dave Chappelle took a stand and fought for what he believed he was owed, and in the end, he was successful. It's also a reminder that even when you're at the top of your game and have achieved a lot of success, you still need to be vigilant about protecting your rights and making sure you're being fairly compensated. Dave Chappelle is a legend in the comedy world, but that didn't stop him from having to fight for what he believed he was owed. It's also worth noting that Dave Chappelle's recent run-in with Comedy Central is just one example of the larger issue of artists not always being fairly compensated for their work, especially when it comes to streaming platforms. It's an issue that affects a lot of people in the entertainment industry, and it's something that we all need to be aware of and work to address. So there you have it. Those are just a few of the reasons why Dave Chappelle is able to sell out comedy theaters and still speak nonchalantly about it. He's got talent, a loyal fan base, a down-to-earth attitude, a unique approach to comedy, and a tireless work ethic. If you haven't seen Dave Chappelle live, I highly recommend it. Trust me, it's an experience you won't forget.